So we're super excited to hear about your systems and strategies. So make sure you're ready to take notes because you're going to want to. I've learned so much from Beth in the last little while. So thank you. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So, a quick background buy a billion. It's kind of funny because I'm like, you don't necessarily need to make more money. People are like, then why do you call this buy a billion? And buy a billion is actually a nod to my beloved Buffalo Bills. So I've shared this in other spaces that the Bills went through a really, really, really long drought in terms of their record. They were terrible for a long time. But the fan base in Buffalo is so incredibly loyal that we would go to every game and we would sit in blizzards and do crazy things like jump through tables and let people squirt ketchup and mustard on us. And no matter how bad the team was, and how badly we got beat, we'd leave every single game and be like, yeah, but the next one, the Bills are going to win by a billion. And I just love that mindset. So that's where the buy a billion brand is actually stemmed from. It has nothing to do with money. So again, thank you to Desi and Elizabeth for inviting me to be here today. I'm really excited to share a few little nuggets with you guys. I'll give you a quick background on me in the professional sense, why I'm here in front of you, what qualifies me to be here, or maybe in some of your minds will disqualify me from being here. Either is okay. The beautiful thing about the world that we're in is it's whatever you want it to be. To Elizabeth's point, she shared that I started a team. I actually got licensed in New York State in 2009. It was coming off of a very challenging market. 2007, 2008 were really complicated times in real estate. And I was leaving a really stable position as a drug dealer legally. I was in pharmaceutical sales. But I didn't love it. I felt like I was really confined by some of the corporate structure and various things that contributed to the managed care system in my area. And so I went to my husband at the time and I said, I know I tried this real estate thing before and it didn't go very well, but I want to give up my great salary, my company car, my benefits, and all of the things that our family has grown accustomed to go into real estate after the market's bottomed out and not have a guaranteed paycheck. What do you think? And you can imagine how that was received. But I made a commitment that I would attempt this dream for 2 years. And I would still keep my pharmaceutical job and all of the benefits that went along with it. But I needed to try. And as long as I could have 2 years to try to make a go of this, I asked him for his support and said, if I can't replace my income from pharma in real estate within 2 years, I'll give up this dream. Well, 15 months later, I was able to resign from pharmaceutical sales and I never looked back. So I went from being a top producing agent to very quickly hiring my first assistant, which, guys, if you've ever hired somebody, it's the scariest thing ever because now it's not just about you. Somebody else requires your success to fuel their family and their life, to then scaling a team. And I was having a lot of fun. Life was grand. I had a great assistant who was handling our transactions. I had 5 or 6 members of the team at any given point in time, and we were just making money and having fun. So fast forward, the brokerage that I was with at that point in time was purchased by a much larger company. And everything that I had worked so hard to escape from in terms of that corporate structure was now imposed on me. So I took about a year just to see how things were going to evolve as this new organization took over, and ultimately decided that it wasn't the right fit for me. The challenge was there really wasn't a brokerage that was similar to the one that I had been a part of that I loved so dearly. So it pushed me out of my comfort zone to ultimately say, well, then I guess I'll just start my own company, right? So a lot of times these decisions are based off of necessity. So I started my independent brokerage in 2018, and it was kind of exciting, something that I owned exclusively. I got to make decisions for. And as we started to gain some momentum and some recognition in the marketplace, agents started coming to me. I never recruited. I didn't even know to recruit, how to recruit, that was something that a broker was supposed to do. And so as time went on, if someone expressed an interest in joining me, I was like, yeah, this is great. Used to tell everybody, hey, we're growing organically, which we were, but organic also meant without intention. And so all of a sudden, this thing that I loved so dearly had kind of taken on a life of its own. And one day, a couple years later, it was about 5 years on my path, that I woke up and I looked around and I was like, this doesn't work. I have almost 50 agents. I have 4 brick and mortar locations that I'm responsible for. I have all this overhead, all these tools, all these systems. Some of the agents produce, some don't. Everybody wants something different from me. Everything's growing and looks great on the outside, but I'm actually making no more money than I have in the past. I might actually be making less, and I'm taking on all the risk. And so I made a decision. It was a very scary decision. It was a very challenging decision that ultimately I blew it up. And that wasn't necessarily the path that I intended to take at the moment. I just knew that I didn't like the feeling in my gut that for the first time in my professional life in real estate, I dreaded going into the office, and something had to change. So I had a choice to either have the hard thing that I knew, which was the way I was structured, or to take on a different hard and redesign my business and redesign my life. So I'm going to give you a glimpse into exactly what I've done, because I'm hopeful that you're not in a position that you feel the need to blow it up. And if you do, that's okay. It's your business. But what I really hope to achieve is to give you guys some guidance that this path, as it evolves, really continues to be what you want it to be, to evolve in the manner that you'd like it to evolve in. And if you ever get to a crossroads, you have the courage to make some changes. So let's dive in. All right, so business by design. Before we get into content, I'd love for everybody to drop in the chat how they're winning. This is something that our friends have instilled in us. If anybody's had the opportunity to attend a training from Justin Nelson, he's fantastic. But there's a lot more to this than just, hey, let's talk about our wins, which are important. It's also because it helps us get in the right frame of mind to learn and to be open and accepting to the content that we're going to receive. So there's a lot of psychology around the benefits of starting off any training, any webinar with a positive mindset. So let's see. First mastermind, excited. Yes, closed on my hardest transaction. Desi girl, that's been a long time coming. Congrats.
Yeah, I'm so thrilled that everybody's here. Thank you. I got so excited about introducing Beth that I didn't really say anything about, SBSC and how we're just so excited to have people join our first mastermind. I don't know if you want to say something, Desi, while people are chiming in on their wins, but there's always a little few quirks in the beginning to work out.
Oh, Mackenzie closed a triple domino deal yesterday in a hot seller's market. Congrats, Mackenzie.
Good job.
Brooklyn is staying committed to her journey of balance. Yes, that is a huge commitment. Curtis is 3 deals away from hitting his Q1 transaction goals. Guys, I love this. Congratulations. And it's not by accident that you're on this webinar. The people that commit to continual growth ultimately reap the rewards. Go ahead, Elizabeth, or Desi.
No, Desi, I think was gonna.
Yeah, no, we're excited that you guys are here, and we're excited to finally be able to have a community where we can collaborate and share ideas and just grow together.
Awesome.
Setting boundaries and making room for what I need to focus on success. Boundaries are huge. And I think
you'll learn more about that today.
Exactly. We're going to be learning a lot. On track for Q1 goals. Good job, Kylie. Love that.
So I have a lot of content today, guys. I don't want you to worry if you miss anything. I will share the slides that also have hyperlinks to any of the things that I talk about with Desi and Elizabeth so that they can distribute everything later. So if there's something that you missed, we'll make sure you get it. All right, so let's talk about the power of emotional connection. The thing that ultimately changed the trajectory of my business and therefore my life was a chance to really get connected to me. And I think when we operate in a space and it's a lot of constant movement, a lot of momentum, we also start to operate from a space of expectation. So as my business evolved, I started doing just what I thought the next possible step was, and the thing that I was quote unquote supposed to do, instead of taking the time to make sure that I was connecting with myself. So there's a visualization exercise. I'm not going to walk you through it today, but it is recorded and it is attached to the slide. So I would encourage all of you to do this practice in the comfort of your own home. But really what it forced me to do was step away from the business, step away from the noise, step away from everything that was going on around me and get more in line with what my long-term goal was. So it forced me to sit down and say, what's my why? What's driving me forward? So that was my emotional purpose, which ultimately informed my personal vision, which then informs my core values, and now it's informing my daily motivation. I am excited to come to work every day, and that wasn't always the case. For me personally, I started my family at a fairly young age. I had my first daughter when I was 23 or 24, and then I had my second daughter when I was 29. And I was like, you know what, I'm sacrificing some of my 20s because I'm a mom. But in my mind, I was like, yeah, but I'm going to be an empty nester when I'm like 46, and that's pretty cool. And as I kept getting closer and closer to the stage where my kids were going to be grown and gone, I started to recognize that I wasn't any closer to the goal of being able to snowbird and travel and do all of the things that I wanted to do. So last year, part of the catalyst of all of this was when my youngest started high school, and I went, gosh, life looks the exact same as it did 14 years ago. And it was this visualization exercise that I went through that really helped me get in line with where I needed to be. So that's the woo, right? So we have the woo, and you can see here this future self exercise is something you guys can do on your own. But what it did was it took me out of the present, and it had me really introduce myself and get to know the version of me 5 years in the future. And when I met that person, she was light and bright and airy and having fun and living in a warm climate, which I'm in Buffalo. So I'm like, okay, this all looks very different. I need to start taking steps to making sure that this vision becomes my reality. And that's where the work comes in. So anything that you're doing today, while valuable, truly shouldn't be for the today version of you. It should be steps towards the future version of you. And the only way to do that is to meet that version. So again, I encourage you guys to do this visualization exercise. It takes less than 10 minutes and it is so powerful. So here's a little bit about how I started to implement this in my day-to-day. Now, guys, you're all in the real estate space. There is nothing about this that should be surprising. Like anything that we do, and I've taught this to loan officers and people in title, it's all the same thing. You have to have a certain number of conversations, to set a certain number of appointments, to meet a certain number of appointments, to sign a certain number of buyers and sellers, to get them under contract and then close them, right? So again, no surprises here, but I like to return to this visual because oftentimes we overcomplicate things. This business is not hard. It's not easy, but it's simple if we look at it from a very structured perspective. What happens is we overcomplicate things because we want to avoid doing the actual work. So that was one of the first things that I really had to recognize in myself is I knew exactly how to do this business. But I started getting distracted by what everybody else wanted or needed from me. And in reality, what they needed was somebody to have an honest conversation about what it was really going to take to be successful. And that conversation started with me. So one of the things that I offer, and you will all get a link to this, is how to actually measure your standard of success. So when we talk about this is what it needs to look like, you have to take the time to actually sit down and say, okay, this is my annual income goal, and break this down. So again, you guys will all have access to this. Anything in this kind of light beige is all editable, and you should edit it to match not what you want today, what your 5-year version of you wants. And that was a big differentiator from how I do this now to how I did it previously. So when I met this 5-year version of me, she was living in a climate that was not Buffalo. She was very healthy. She was glowing. She was happy. And she clearly was very financially secure. And candidly, guys, when you start to look at net worth, the more brick and mortar I took on and the more liability I took on, while my income stayed fairly stable, my net worth started to plummet. And that was a tough realization. So I would encourage you to plug in a number that's in line with where you want to be down the road. And for the sake of today, I'm going to use a very simple example of I put in if an agent wants to make $100,000 a year. And then this recommends that 70% of your total income should come from listings. Every market's different. Everybody operates their business differently. I don't know that you have to abide by that, but for the sake of convenience and simplicity, I'm going to say half of your income will come from listings, which means half comes from buyers, so $50,000. Your split, average sale price, what your average commission is, caveat, fine print, commissions are negotiable, always have been. Please don't blow me in for using a real number. And then your sales rate. So your sales rate is the percentage of your listings that actually sell. And again, this is variable based off of different markets. Your average days on market, the number of contacts you need to obtain an appointment, how many presentations you run before you get a commitment from somebody. And then 10 is the number of average time in minutes that I need to make a contact. And this is when I'm doing my prospecting. So whether that's outbound phone calls, whether I'm door knocking, anything that you're doing to get in front of somebody and have a conversation, it does average out to be about 10 minutes because there's going to be plenty of people that just aren't interested in a real estate transaction. Then I have how many buyers I need going at any one time to close a deal. I'm in New York State, so we take 60 days to close, and I'm factoring about 30 days to find the right property. I work 5 days a week and 48 weeks a year. And again, this is an example. I actually work less than that, but we'll get to that. So plug in all of these numbers, and it's automatically going to calculate what you need to be doing on a daily, weekly, and annual basis. So if you don't have a concept of what you should be doing, this is a great place to start. So when we look down below, my prospecting requirements are I need to talk to 100 people a week, which is 20 people a day. And that's just over 3 hours of my day making contact with people. And then it breaks down my inventory requirements. So if you're not sure what your personal numbers are, use this as a default. Alter your income and your average sale price for your market, and then start to monitor everything. I use football as an example often because they say, they start the first quarter and they go into everything with the best of intentions, but sometimes the opposition, which could be interest rates, the market, there's so many things that are out of our control, doesn't fall into line with our game plan. So you have to review this quarterly and make adjustments. So starting with understand what your standards of success are and reverse engineer that so that you know exactly what you should be doing day by day and week by week. The next thing that I start to pay really close attention to is my hourly rate. I mentioned previously that hiring somebody was the scariest thing that I've ever done. Now I get excited about it because I can leverage my time in a much different manner when I understand what my hourly rate is. So for an easy exercise, take your desired income for the year, divide it by 2,000, which is the approximate number of working hours that a full-time person works, and that's going to give you your hourly rate. So for the purpose of this exercise, we said $100,000 as annual income. That's $50 an hour. And then the way I utilize that is anytime I review my calendar, which I'm going to give you full transparency into my calendar, I start to analyze where I'm spending my time. And if I'm meeting or exceeding my hourly rate, I actually give myself a thumbs up. And if I'm spending too much time on things that are below my hourly rate, I understand that either I'm distracted or it's time for me to hire some help. It also has really helped me get very comfortable with the word no and putting a period at the end of it and making it a complete sentence. I think when we work in a service-based industry that we're all 100% commission, sometimes we say yes to things that in your heart and in your gut, you should say no to. And no has become one of my favorite words. So no saves me a lot of time. And by saving time on lower value things or even candidly clients that I don't feel like I'm in alignment with, it has freed up so much space for me to focus on my success. It was a complete mindset shift. When I was like, man, I need to get out of this like grind mentality, I also understood that I needed to accept that I was going to be open to receiving and that I could no longer operate from a space that if I turned down this opportunity, that I had a fear that another opportunity wouldn't come my way. And I can't quantify it, but I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that I go into every day, every opportunity that everything is happening for me, and it has dramatically changed my business and my life. It also helps me become way more efficient because I'm constantly reviewing and analyzing. I'm like, would I pay somebody $50 an hour to do this? And if the answer is no, then I shouldn't be paying myself $50 an hour to do this. If it's $20 an hour work, I need to go find somebody that makes $20 an hour and specializes in the thing that I'm currently focused on. All right, so calendar management. I think this is probably what Elizabeth really was referring to when we got into how I structure things. So I love process. I love system. I really pride myself on anything that I discover that I'm doing repeatedly over and over, I will find a way to automate it. But most importantly, as excited as I am to be able to snowbird and travel more often, there's this weird thing that happens if any of you guys have teenagers. So like the time that I want to spend the most with my kids is as I got older. I was like, okay, you're fun and I can like converse with you and I don't have to change your diaper or like clean up your mess. But as they get older, they want to spend less time with me. So being really proactive about my calendar, I'm ensuring that I am home for dinner every night. I rarely work weekends. And you'll see on my calendar, I'm going to share it here in a moment, that I have everything blocked out, not quite as granular as I did in the past because I've learned how I work. I've evolved my calendar because I am constantly reviewing this, but I'll show you what my calendar looks like today. So I went out to next week just so we have a little bit more of a clear image. So you'll notice my day actually starts around 6:15. And this is my miracle morning. I start every single day with journaling, meditation, and manifestation because, guys, I like woo. I also like the word fuck, so that, it could go either way. Next, I have bonding with Breezy. So my youngest daughter's name is Aubrey, and I call her Breezy. And if you have teenagers, you understand that the last thing they want to do is spend time with you, and they're certainly not going to tell you anything that's going on in their life. Well, my bonding with Breezy is I drive her to school every morning. The school is literally a mile down the road. She could get on the bus, she could walk, but if I lock her in the car for 5 minutes, I get to have a little bit of a glimpse of what's going on in her world. And that time is really valuable to me, which is why she has her own color. Then from 9 to about noon every day, I have a block of focus time. Now, this may look different for you. I am a morning person. I am at my peak after I have my first cup of coffee, and I am in go mode. So I work my database. Then I do my content creation on Tuesdays, agent attraction, my admin, and then I truly leave space to do nothing. My Friday mornings, I may just sit on my couch and think. A CEO's job is to think, and you guys are all the CEOs of your business. Then I plug in my family time and my personal time. I get myself to yin yoga every Monday because if you've never done yin, it's the most relaxing thing you can do. And it's just a great way to start the week. And I have a ton of open space here. I do have some friends that I work with. You can see I'm taking Aubrey to get her passport renewed. And then anything that I'm doing in terms of training, whether for myself or a teaching that I'm doing, I have highlighted in this blue space. This is my development time. So I want to give you guys a little bit more insight over here. I'm using Google Calendar, but this is essentially available in almost any of the calendar systems that are out there. I just find Google to be the most user-friendly. So when I expand my insights, I've actually put in what my working hours are. And what the calendar is doing is I fill in time it's giving me the visual of where I'm spending the majority of my time. So I have all of my meetings get highlighted in gray because I hate meetings. I am a firm believer that a meeting without food should have just been an email or a Loom video. You can send really quick videos to get the message across. Professional development, any money-making activities, my health, my energy, power, building my personal brand, my daughter. I have my personal time. And then what I don't have on here right now, but I'm going to walk you guys through how I utilize this, is opportunity space. So here's how I leverage opportunity space. Every week I do an audit of my calendar. So that's what this set intentions for the week is. I sit down on Sunday night, I think about what I want my week to look like ahead, and I review my previous week. So for example, if I were to open up my calendar for the upcoming week and see a ton of gray, I know that's going to drain my energy and it's going to make my week less productive. And I'm going to get to Friday and I'm going to be like, ugh, what a week. So glad it's the weekend. I didn't ever want to live for the weekends again. So I will start to reschedule or cancel meetings if I see too much gray on my calendar. The other thing that I do is I look at my calendar and I say, okay, I know that I need to have 4 appointments this week. I need to sign 2 clients. And then I will start to say, you know what? I have time on Monday from 4 to 5. And I'll put open for appointment. I change the color to my opportunity space. And I change this to free because I want to show that it's an open time. Okay, so I'm going to save that. Now I'll go through and outline my opportunity spaces for the week. I used to have these preset, and there's value in doing that. I could make this a recurring event that every Monday at 4 o'clock, I know I'm available for an appointment. Or if you like to be more fluid, you can do it week by week. So the point is, I make sure I allocate at least 4 open time slots. I generally try to give myself 6. The reason being is once I get a prospect on the phone or somebody inquires on the website, however I'm getting in contact with my prospective leads, when they say to me, Beth, I'd love to have you come out and talk to me about selling my house, I'm no longer scrambling to go, well, let's find a good time. I'm saying, Elizabeth, I have time Monday at 4 or Wednesday at 2. Which would you prefer? So it's on my schedule. Once Elizabeth says, you know what, Monday at 4 sounds great, I click on this, I edit it, I say listing appointment or client consult. I change it from free to busy and I turn it green. Then I'm able to monitor in real time how my week is progressing. My objective is to have 6 open appointments and turn at least 4 of them green every single week. And when I'm able to do that, you'll notice here, my weekends are out of office. If I choose to work with a client on the weekend, it means that I've taken time from somewhere else. And that's a choice. It is your calendar, it is your business, and it can look however you want. So there is also this hyperlink here. We'll give you a loom of what my overview is. So if you want to revisit this at some point in time, you absolutely can. The next part is you have to follow your schedule. You have to hold yourself accountable to what you put out there, because it's really easy that when the day starts coming at you, that you get sidetracked. So something that I've implemented, and I'm actually going to update my calendar after this call to reflect it, is I don't check my email until noon every day. And it's because I know who I am. I know the things that will get me distracted. I pride myself on being incredibly responsive. It's ridiculous. It's like Pavlov's dogs. If I see a notification on my email, or I see a notification on my text, or I see a missed call, I feel compelled to look at it and respond to it immediately. But when I do that, my business starts to run me instead of the other way around. And so knowing that I need focus time first thing in the morning, I don't even open my email, check my text messages, or respond to voicemails until noon. So from 9 to noon, I'm heavily focused. My do not disturb is on, and I'm not doing anything else. There are no real emergencies in real estate, you guys. We create them. We operate based off of other people's emotions way too often. Somebody has a sense of urgency because they failed to prepare. That's not going to be on me. I'll get to it at noon. And I would encourage you to do the same. Okay, so your business, your rules. Quick recap. If you control your time, you will control your income. It's the only way to ensure that you are getting the hourly rate that you deserve. And I would rather you say no to an opportunity and leave that space wide open on your calendar, go to the gym, take a walk, spend time with the family, go to the spa. I don't care what you do. But the moment that you start filling your calendar in with busy work, you are bringing your hourly rate down. The other thing that has been a huge contributor to my success today is the people that I surround myself with. I'm on a group message with Elizabeth and Desi. We text back and forth into the evenings and early mornings because we're early risers. These ladies yesterday were helping me narrow down some branded images. Like, you need that tribe. And I will tell you that before I met Desi and Elizabeth, my market is a lot of, and I mean no disrespect when I say this, a lot of average and below average agents. And maybe you have the same thing in your market. So I was a top producer doing 20 to 30 transactions a year. And I felt really good about that. And I'm still proud of it because I also, ran a business and did other things. But then I met these ladies and I realized my 30 transactions a year pales in comparison to what they do. And it helped me realize what was possible. So if you feel like you've kind of reached this cap of how far you can go, I have a saying, I'm not raising the ceiling, I'm raising the floor. I'm going to step up and I'm going to put myself in rooms and around people that show me what's possible because they're more than happy to help. So make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that have a life that looks like you want yours to look. Okay, so here's what's next. Now that we've identified what our calendar should look like, what our hourly rate is, how do you decide where you're going to spend your time in terms of prospects? So everybody here, I'm sure, has a CRM. I don't care what CRM you use. The best CRM is the one that you're going to actually get in every day and operate. I've seen them all. I've used them all. They can all be fantastic. A CRM is not a spreadsheet, and a CRM is not the contacts in your phone. It is truly a database management tool. So you end up with all of these people in your database, and it can be challenging to know where to prioritize. I had it. When I had my first database, my first CRM, I had somebody help me build it out. And I had all these different categories. People were hot, they were cold, they were medium hot. It was like we're ordering chicken wings, not categorizing prospects. Like, there were just so many different variations that it became paralysis by analysis, and neither myself nor my team used it at a high level. So I love this concept of 5-star prospect. I learned this from our CEO. I now have a few very simple pipelines in my CRM. First is they're a client. They've already agreed to work with me. They get priority. And I could do a whole lesson on the lifetime value of a client that you nurture versus constantly chasing leads. Guys, it's powerful when you understand how to quantify the difference. So make sure your clients are getting your attention. The second is somebody that I have an appointment set with. I have them categorized out because I want to make sure that I'm following up on that appointment, confirming the appointment, and that it deserves to live on my calendar. The third is a 5-star prospect. And here's what that is. When I go through my new leads and I have a conversation, they get 1 star if they're engaged. Like, do they even respond? They get 2 stars if they're friendly and collaborative. Guys, I don't know about you. I said I like the F word, but I don't like people saying it to me. So like, if somebody's like, F off, just give me the price, I'm like, all right, cool, no star for you. And I just put them in a nurture campaign. The 3rd star is they know what they want. They have some idea that they want a 3-bed, 2-bath, Cape Cod style home in this area. 4 is they know when they want it. Now, timelines, especially in real estate, can be artificial. I find that if somebody says to me, oh, I'm about a year out, it's just their nice way of saying like, please don't bug me. My follow-up to that is always like, I completely understand that you're not in a position or looking to make a real estate transaction or make a move in the immediate future. However, if something came along and it matched your criteria, plus made financial sense, would you want me to let you know about it? And if they say yes, then chances are that timeline isn't real. It's just them nicely saying, please don't bug me every day, which is fine. Then the 5th star is they know they want to work with you. Now, when I prioritize people, if they have 4 stars or above, I will categorize them as a 5-star prospect, and I will make sure I touch base with them at least monthly. I also have some automations in place to make sure that they're getting some type of touch, market information, something every 3 weeks. They may not know that they want to work with you right away, but if they have at least 4 stars and I feel like there's some alignment, I'm confident that I can move them to the 5th star. Everybody else just goes into nurture. I don't care what they've said their timeline is. If they don't know, if they're just kind of like lingering out there, I put them on a nurture campaign, because when they're ready, they do come back around and ultimately they end up achieving more of those stars and they move up on my priority list. The other piece, and I think this should go without saying, but I've also learned that I'm going to say everything, even if I think it should go without saying, is I will only work with qualified buyers. And what I mean by qualified is they have to be ready. And again, this goes back to the stars. They have to be willing, because so many people like the idea, they're aspirational, but they won't necessarily execute. And the way that I determine that is I ask this magic question. Elizabeth, if the perfect home came up today, it matched your criteria and it made financial sense, is there anything that would prevent you from making an offer?
No.
And if perfect, that's why I want to hear they're willing, because sometimes they get this deer in headlights like, oh, wait, you want me to make an offer on a house today? And you can start to uncover if there's something that's preventing them from being willing to move forward. And then able. I obviously want to make sure that they're financially qualified. Sometimes this can be a little bit of an uncomfortable conversation. I'll give you guys a great one-liner that works super well, is when I'm having a conversation with a prospective buyer, rather than say, have you been pre-approved? Which can seem a little like, oh gosh, we're talking about money and how dare you jump right to that? You don't even care about me. I ask this question. Have you had an opportunity to speak to a lender so that we can understand your purchasing power? Or is that something that you'd like me to help you with? Very different conversation, guys. They go, oh no, I haven't yet. No problem, I'll get you in contact with somebody. Or yeah, I did, and I'm pre-approved for up to this. It just changes the dynamic of the conversation. And then qualifying my sellers. So qualifying my sellers is, I look for somebody that values what I bring to the table. And if I'm getting a lot of pushback, if somebody's really like, I don't know if I trust your price or your marketing strategy or whatever the case may be, I've gotten really good at walking away. Somebody else will list it, somebody else will be a better fit. More than likely, I'll come back in 6 months or 12 months when their listing agreement expires and sign them then. But when you work with qualified sellers, your conversion power is 3 times higher. We've all taken listings that we know we shouldn't have taken, but we felt compelled for one reason or another. And it's always the people that you're not in alignment with, that don't trust your professional judgment, that make you work twice as hard for a fraction of the money. And it just starts to feel like, ick, why did I agree to this? You'll also get higher commissions and quicker closings, which means more money in your pocket. All right. So I want to give you guys some action items, and then we can open it up. I see there's some things in the chat. We'll give some space for Q&A. But guys, none of this matters if you don't take action. I've made a couple of commitments to myself this year, and the number one commitment I made was, first, I stopped negotiating with myself. I negotiate for a living. I love it. But when my alarm goes off and I've already told myself the night before that I'm getting up and I'm going to yoga, I don't have that internal dialogue anymore. Or the moment that I do, I'm like, nope, we're not negotiating with me. Get out of bed and get going. The second thing is I've shortened the distance between decision and action. I love to analyze things. I would analyze them to death. The reality is you won't ever have good information to know if it was the right decision or the wrong decision unless you take action. So you've invested approximately an hour to be here. Make sure you implement some of these things. So I want you to start by defining what your standards of success are. Do the visualization exercise and then plug in what your future self is going to earn as income into the agent profitability calculator, and it's going to help you determine what your weekly activities are. Next is design your calendar to make sure that you are aligned with your personal and professional successes. Create your own policy for working with buyers and sellers. Maybe you want to limit yourself geographically to a certain degree because there's areas that you don't enjoy working with or the drive is tedious. It can be whatever you want it to be as long as it's something that you've defined. And then remember to monitor and refine these goals. Guys, this isn't static. It's dynamic. The market changes. You change. You should change. And so your business will have to change with you. And that's great. So I want to take this back full circle because, I told you how I had, on the outside looking in, it looked like I had everything going. And I'll be really transparent with you guys. So through this process, I ended up divesting a partnership. I went through a professional divorce. I've been through a personal divorce and a professional divorce. The professional was harder. And through that, I lost a friend, which is unfortunate. I really would have liked to have preserved the relationship, but I recognized that we wanted very different things in our life and therefore very different things in our business, which is why 50% of the time the business felt like it was a monster of its own because it wasn't mine. So it was a lot of heartache. It was a lot of expense. I took on huge legal bills. Last year, I posted a loss for the company of almost $120,000, and I'd never posted a loss before. It was a humbling experience, but it was also very evident to me that what I had was not sustainable. So that was 2023. 2024, though we didn't post a huge profit, we did post a profit. I have been happier, healthier, and I had over $120,000 swing in the other direction. We're a leaner, meaner machine, but I'm traveling, I'm spending time with my family, and personally, because I'm back in the right headspace and doing the things that I know I need to do, I've written more business in the first 45 days of this year than I did all of 2023. So the reason I share this is wherever you are today doesn't have to be your defining moment. The only time it defines you is if you stop. So if you're in the trenches, if things feel heavy, just keep going and reach out to people that can be a resource to you. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. And then if there's any questions, Elizabeth, I don't know if you were monitoring the chat. I saw some things pop down there.
Here. Yeah, if somebody wants to unmute themselves and ask a question, or you could throw it into the chat. I was monitoring the chat. I was just letting Gagan know that we are going to send out a recording. We have this recorded. So yeah, I've got to say, while you're talking about the time blocking, Beth, I know I mentioned it in the group chat, but it has literally changed my life. Like Beth gave us a session of her time blocking and how she organizes it, and just that little snippet of what you went through there, and it was expanded. I'm not doing it perfectly.
That's okay.
But
you're
has
doing
been,
it.
yeah, it's been amazing. It's definitely just even seeing where your time is being spent. I never really thought about that before. Are you doing that, Desi? I know we're getting our team on there, so. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you don't have questions, you can also talk about key takeaways as well.
Yeah. Kylie said when you were doing real estate when your kiddos were younger. Yes, I was. So oh my gosh, it makes me sound so old when I say this. Like, I can't believe I have a soon to be 16-year-old. She's turning 16 on Saturday. Cause like in my mind, I'm 25. So I was, and my structure was different, Kylie, absolutely. What I did was I made sure that I was available to get the kids on the bus. And then I made sure that I was available to get the kids off the bus. So that meant that I would do things in the middle of the day. And then candidly, because I was so committed to getting out of pharma, if I had to do showings, well, I did have to do showings and different things in the evening, I did it after dinner because I just wanted them to recognize that mom was there at the key points during the day. What I loved about it though was I never had to ask somebody's permission. Like if I wanted to go read to my daughter's class in the middle of the day, I didn't have to like put in a time off request. But I also understood that my success was dependent on me. And so if I took time out of the day that I would normally allocate to prospecting or something else, I made sure I put that time back in somewhere else in the week. And my rule was I could never go more than a week without reallocating that time because you're like, oh, this week looks kind of full. I'll push it to a week. You won't. It'll never end up back on your calendar, and that's time lost that you won't get back.
And that's something that I'm passionate about too, Kylie. I've got little guys. My oldest is 14 and my youngest is 5. And so navigating, working full time while also raising a family, like I totally get that. And her time blocking has really helped me because before I was like, no, if a client says jump, you have to jump. But now my client doesn't need to know that from 3 to 6, I'm spending time with my kids. I just say, oh, you know what? I'm booked up. I could definitely meet you at 6:30. And I only choose to work 2 evenings a week. And then I work either Saturday or Sunday, but not both. And my kids don't go to school on Friday because in Idaho, we don't value education. And so we we on Fridays, I also work from home. Um, and so I'll still respond to emails and things, and I might pop out for appointments, but I try to really spend the day with them on Friday and be available to set up activities for them and
Yeah,
things.
I'm a firm believer, guys. Everybody doesn't need to know your life. So if there's something on your calendar, if it's your kids, if it's your time, you simply say, I'm sorry, I have an appointment at that time, but I am available at this time. Don't give them more information than they need. Kylie, if you don't mind my asking, how old are your kiddos? And
Yeah,
you can
so I
unmute.
have a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old.
Okay.
And yeah, so I do get really creative. Like for example, I'm at 12:30 today, I'm signing a new buyer and I let her know, hey, just I've been nurturing her for 9 months, so she's met my kids. And so I was like, by the way, the 3-year-old's probably going to be joining us today because childcare is
Yeah.
the trickiest part for me.
And here's the beautiful thing about that, Kylie, is you are now attracting clients that are in alignment with your lifestyle, right? Like if you have to hide the fact that you have children from somebody, then it's probably not a client that you want to take on. Something you might want to consider, this was a lifesaver for me. Your 3-year-old might be a little bit young, but there's all kinds of calendar apps. There's this frame called, I think it's called Skylight, that I sync my calendar to. And when it's kind of hibernating, it's a photo, like a digital photo frame. My kids got really accustomed to going and tapping it and being like, oh, mom's got an appointment right now. We can call her after such and such a time. Like as they got older and started to understand, but it really helped them have visibility as to when they could reach out to me. It's not that I'm ignoring you, but when I'm with a client, my client gets the same undivided attention that my family gets and vice versa. The other thing is if you call my phone, my voicemail says if you're calling after 6 p.m., your call will be returned the next business day. And then I put it on do not disturb because again, there's not any real emergencies in real estate. If something really is going sideways in a transaction, sometimes my clients just need to like take the monkey out of their head and put it in my voicemail. That's cool. But I'm going to need the bank or the attorney involved. And I promise you, we're not getting a hold of them after 5 o'clock. So I've really never had an issue. I make an exception that if I'm negotiating a time-sensitive contract, I will be available after 6 o'clock. But other than that, it'll wait till the next day.
That was going to be my question, is how you deal with negotiations, because I'm finding in our market right now, it goes into the night quite often.
Yep. And so that's just how I manage the expectation. Obviously, I'm not going to risk a client not getting the home that they want over my scheduling, but I do find that by sharing that information up front, I'm very big on managing expectations. I don't get any pushback. One time somebody said, wait, so you're a real estate agent? You don't work after 6? And I said, to the contrary, I work many evenings after 6, which is why I'm either giving my client the undivided attention they deserve, just like you'll get, or if I'm home with my family, I think they deserve that too. Wouldn't you agree? And of course, they're not going to say no because they'd sound like a jerk. And if they did, I'd be like, I don't think I'm the right agent for you. But by managing and setting that expectation, my clients are so incredibly appreciative when I'm communicating with them after 6 o'clock. They're like, oh my gosh, thank you. We know we're cutting into family time. And it just changes the dynamic.
Love that. Well, we're getting close to our time together, but I'd love if people would drop their biggest takeaways, because Desi, you did bring that up, but if you drop that in the chat, I'd love to know. And I know Beth would love to know what your takeaways are. And Beth, how do people get a hold of you? Like if they're interested in reaching
Easiest way
out
is Instagram. Yep, I'm Beth by a Billion on Instagram. You can DM me. I am a resource to you guys. I love when I get DMs of like, hey, I had this scenario come up. How would you handle it? I'll voice memo back and forth with you or give you some insight. It's so much more fun to get that than like the Arabian Prince that has $50 million that wants me to help him buy a house. So feel free to DM me.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And we're going to share, we've got this recorded and we've got your slides coming to us so we can help get those out to anybody that's interested. Thank you so much for joining us on our very first mastermind with Selling Big and Small Communities. We're so excited and lots of things that I've learned some stuff here today as far as like how to run a mastermind chat. But I'm really excited. How about you, Desi? Do you have anything you want to say before we let everybody go off to their day?
Yeah, just next month, we've already kind of got a plan of what we want to do, and we want to talk about client experience and have everyone kind of collaborate on things that you do to elevate the client experience. And yeah, maybe we have some book recommendations too. So, but yeah, thank you so much for coming. My favorite
Thank
quote
you,
of the day was, I
everybody.
like the woo, and I also like to say the fuck word.
Yeah, fair warning, it could go either way.
There's
Love
some
all the
good woo
takeaways.
out
Stop
there. I love that
negotiating with
one
yourself.
too. Yeah, we've got some really good takeaways here.
And Amanda, I'm going to share the slides with Desi and Elizabeth so they can forward them to everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much,
Thank
guys.
you
Appreciate
guys.
you.
Go sell
Desi and
some
Elizabeth, I
stuff
love what you're
and
doing. I'll talk
work
to you
on your
after school.
souls. Yeah.
Bye.